There is a moment in life when you return to the place that raised you. It is not a normal return. It is a return that carries the weight of everything you have become. And on that day in Davidson, on that day on December 31st, 2025, that moment was about to happen. Steph walks toward John M. Belk Arena, an arena he knows well, an arena that watched him grow, an arena that transformed a boy into a man. You can perceive when there is a place that shaped you, when there is a space that is more than a building, when it is a sanctuary of origin. And John M. Belk Arena is this for Steph. He walks through the hallways he has known since 2006, through the same hallways where he was young, where he was improbable, where he was unknown to the world but known to himself. And you can perceive when someone is emotionally vulnerable, when being in a place that formed you brings the brutal simplicity of truth. The arena is full. The crowd wears Davidson jerseys, old numbers. Some wear 30, the number Steph wore when he was a rookie. Some wear Warriors gear, the number he wears now as a legend. But there is a different quality, because this is not a game. This is a ceremony. This is coming home. Steph sits. Steph observes the crowd, and there is a moment when he realizes what is really happening. Exit 30, that exit that took him home when he was a boy, now bears his name. Steph Curry Interchange on Interstate 77. A highway with his name. You can perceive when there is a recognition that is surreal, when something that is impossible to imagine is now a real reality that you can touch. Steph reflects on the significance of this. A man who was too small, too weak, too improbable, now has a street with his name. But there is a quality in his face that is contemplative. It is not complete celebration. It is deep reflection. It is a man who became a legend reflecting on the boy he was. Because you know what the truth about success is? That the higher you reach, the more clearly you see where you started. And Steph is seeing clearly now. The president of Davidson takes the stage, begins to speak, speaks about the boy who came to Davidson, speaks about the improbable that became possible. Steph Curry was 7 feet of height, smaller than his competitors, says the president. Everyone said he was too small. Everyone said he would not succeed. You can perceive when there is a narrative that is truth, when someone is telling a story that the whole world wants to hear. But there was a boy who did not hear what the world was saying. There was a boy who believed in himself when no one else did. The president speaks about the NCAA tournament, about Davidson reaching the Elite Eight with Steph scoring 30 points in consecutive games, about the whole world watching a child from Davidson surpass impossible expectations. And the world was never the same, the president continues, because Steph Curry showed basketball that size is not everything, showed that courage is everything. You can perceive when there is truth being spoken that touches deeply. Steph is listening, but there is a part of him that is somewhere else. That is reliving. That is in the past time when he was a boy. Draymond Green is called to speak. Steph's companion on the Warriors, battle brother. Draymond takes the stage and jokes. People get highways named after them when they die, not when they are alive. That is the status of a living legend. The crowd laughs. Applause. But Steph does not laugh completely. Because there is truth also in the joke. Because he knows that this is unusual, but also knows that this is not what truly matters in this moment. You can perceive when there is celebration that is public, but there is an emptiness that is private. Because tribute is honor. But honor does not fill the place that needs to be filled, the place that is waiting for something that has not yet been said. Draymond continues. Everyone knows that Steph is the best, that he changed basketball, that he changed the NBA, that he changed the world. But what not everyone knows is that Steph started here, started in a tiny place called Davidson College, and started impossible. Draymond looks at Steph with eyes that are deep, and I am grateful that I was witness to the journey, to how a boy who was too small became a man who is infinitely large. The arena applauds. Standing ovation. The crowd on its feet honoring Steph. But there is a quality in Steph that is different. He is seeing people honoring, but he is feeling that there is something still missing. There is truth that has still not been communicated. You can perceive when there is an expectation that is silent, when there is a part of you that is waiting for a very specific truth. The president returns to the stage. Now, says the president, before we reveal the final plaque, the highway exit that bears the name of Steph Curry, there is a very special moment. You can perceive when there is a pause that is significant, when there is a silence that carries weight. We want someone very special to share some words with Steph. Someone who knows him better than anyone. Someone who was part of this journey from the beginning. Steph thinks he will be called to speak. Prepares himself mentally. But no. I would like to call Ayesha Curry. Because you know when someone is about to make a gesture that will change everything? When there is a quality in the air that is pure anticipation. Ayesha stands from the audience. The crowd applauds. Steph watches. And there is a moment when Ayesha begins to walk to the stage that you can perceive that this is not a common moment. Because Ayesha walks differently. There is purpose in every step. There is intention that is clear. And when Ayesha reaches the stage, everyone sees. Ayesha wears Steph's Davidson jersey. That same jersey. That jersey that he wore in the 2000s when the world ignored him. That jersey of number 30 when no one believed. That jersey that appears in old photos. Photos of when he was unknown. Photos of when he was impossible. You can perceive when there is a gesture that is so powerful that it silences the entire crowd. When something without words says more than any sentence could say. The entire arena goes into absolute silence, because everyone understood instantly what Ayesha was doing. Ayesha was not wearing the jersey of Steph Curry, the great. She was wearing the jersey of the boy, of the teenager, of the improbable. She is saying, I honor the boy you were. You can perceive when there is communication that transcends words, when there is truth being expressed through a gesture that is so honest that it is impossible to ignore. Ayesha walks to Steph, says nothing, just stands there before him in that old jersey. And when Steph sees Ayesha in that jersey, something breaks inside him. Literally breaks. You can perceive when there is a comprehension that is so profound that it is impossible to contain. Because the number on that jersey, 30, is not just a number. It is an era. It is a time. It is a version of himself that Steph never forgot, but the whole world tried to forget when he became famous. Ayesha does not wear the jersey of Steph Curry two-time MVP. Ayesha wears the jersey of Steph Curry small. Steph Curry improbable. Steph Curry, who everyone dismissed. And you can perceive when there is love that is so honest that it hurts. Draymond sees this from his place and understands immediately what is happening. His eyes become tearful. Del Curry, Steph's father, sees his daughter-in-law in that old jersey and places his hand on his chest with emotion. Because everyone understood that the moment was not about celebrating Steph Curry, the player. It was about honoring Steph Curry, the boy. You can perceive when there is a gesture that is revolutionary in its simplicity. Ayesha does not need to make a speech, does not need to tell a story. The jersey tells everything. The jersey says, "I saw you when you were nobody." The jersey says, "I believed in you when the world doubted." The jersey says, "I honor not who you became, I honor who you were when you started." You can perceive when someone understands the truth about love. When love's not, in spite of the past, but because of the past. Because you know where the person came from. Steph cannot speak, cannot do anything but look at Ayesha in that old jersey. Tears begin to fall, not silently. They are tears that come from a very deep place. They are tears of a man who is being truly seen. You can perceive when there is a moment that transcends basketball, transcends ceremony. It is a moment between two human beings who know each other in a way that the world could never understand. Ayesha comes down from the stage and walks to Steph, says nothing yet, just places her hand on his face, touches his face as if to say, "I see you. I have always seen you." And you can perceive when there is a gesture that is sacred, when there is a touch that carries centuries of understanding. The crowd is on its feet, not because they were instructed, because they cannot sit in the face of something so profoundly honest. Draymond is on his feet with tears in his eyes, because he understood what Ayesha did, understood that she was not celebrating a player. She was honoring a man. Dell is on his feet, with his hand on his heart, because his son is being seen by the woman he loves, is being recognized not for what he did, but for who he is. You can perceive when there is truth being communicated that is so pure that it affects everyone around. Steph holds Ayesha, cannot speak. His tears speak. His body speaks. His silence speaks. Because he understood. Finally understood what Ayesha was communicating through that gesture. Ayesha was saying to the world, "This man, this Steph, is my hero, not because he won championships. He is my hero because he was brave when it was impossible to be brave. This man is my hero because he had infinite courage in a finite body. This man is my hero because he started here at Davidson as unknown and never stopped believing in himself." You can perceive when there is love that is so complete that it includes past and present simultaneously. The president of Davidson watches this and understands that the ceremony has changed meaning completely. This is no longer a tribute to an athlete. It is a wife's tribute to the man she chose to love from the beginning. Cameras capture the moment. But this is not for the cameras. This is between two. This is private, even though it is in public. Ayesha whispers something in Steph's ear, words that only he can hear. And when Steph hears what Ayesha whispers, he places his head on Ayesha's shoulder and cries completely. You can perceive when there is communication that is so honest that the only response is total vulnerability. Steph is being seen, truly seen, not as a legend, as a man, as the boy he was, as a person that Ayesha knew and chose to love before the whole world knew his name. The crowd continues standing, does not know what to do in the face of so much love being expressed so honestly. Some in the crowd are also crying, because they feel that they are seeing something sacred. They are seeing true marriage. Draymond approaches and embraces both, because he understood that this was what really mattered. Not a trophy, not a highway. It was being loved by someone who sees you completely. Dell approaches as well. Steph's father places his hand on his son's shoulder and whispers something that only Steph can hear. And you can perceive when there are generations being connected through love and recognition. The president returns to the stage, waits for the appropriate moment, because he understood that the official ceremony would have to wait for this private moment to have space to exist. Because this was what really mattered. You can perceive when there is truth that transcends the structure of an event. When there is something so honest that the ceremonial has to pause before it. Steph finally manages to compose himself a little, embraces Ayesha, kisses her forehead, and there is a quality in the gesture that is so pure that the whole world can see that this is true marriage. Not a marriage of celebrities, a marriage of two beings who chose each other when there was no reason to choose. You can perceive when there is a moment that is historic in its personal significance. This will not be remembered as the ceremony where a highway was renamed. It will be remembered as the moment when a wife honored her husband not for what he was, but for who he was. As the moment when an old jersey transformed a public ceremony into private truth expressed publicly. Because you know when someone understands a truth that changes everything? When there is a moment of silence that is full of significance. The ceremony continues. The president returns to the stage, speaks about Exit 30, speaks about the highway that bears Steph's name. But Steph is not truly listening to the official speech. Steph is looking at Ayesha sitting at his side, is observing the woman wearing the old jersey, is processing what just happened. You can perceive when there is an understanding that is silent, but profound. Because Steph begins to see a pattern, begins to understand a truth that was always there, but he had never fully named. How many tributes has Steph received in life? How many trophies? How many records? MVP in 2015. MVP in 2016. Championship in 2015. Championship in 2017. Championship in 2018. Championship in 2022. Finals MVP. Three-point records. Shooting records. Records that break records, that break records. But none of those moments made him cry like Ayesha's gesture in that old jersey. You can perceive when there is an understanding of contrast that is devastating. Because Steph realizes that the greatest honor he has received in his life was not from the NBA, was not from the world. It was from the woman who chose to believe in a small boy when it was impossible to believe. Steph looks at Ayesha and begins to relive a memory, begins to remember when he met Ayesha. They start dating when he was a young player, before fame, before championships, before the whole world knew his name, and you can perceive when there is a deep recognition. Ayesha knew him before. Ayesha chose him before. Ayesha believed before. When it was obvious that he would not succeed. When the world dismissed him. When his father doubted. Ayesha believed. And Steph understands in that moment what true marriage meant. It was not being with someone during success. Anyone would do that. True marriage was being with someone from before success. From when he was improbable. From when he was impossible. You can perceive when there is an understanding of privilege that is profound. Because Steph understands that the greatest privilege of his life was not winning championships. It was having Ayesha by his side. Because the trophies he wins, the whole world knows and celebrates. But the love of Ayesha? That is only his. That is private. That is sacred. Steph continues to look at Ayesha in that old jersey and understands that the ceremony has changed meaning completely. This was not the world honoring Steph Curry. This was Ayesha saying to the world, "This man, this Steph, started as a boy that no one believed in. And I chose to believe. And I am here honoring that boy that the world dismissed." You can perceive when there is a complete reframing, because a highway with Steph's name is an honor. But that is not what truly matters. What truly matters is that Ayesha still sees him the same way she saw him at the beginning, with pure recognition of who he really is. Steph reflects on the contrasts of his life. The world sees Steph Curry, two-time MVP, 4 championships, Finals MVP, record holder, legend. But Ayesha sees Steph, the boy who was too small, the boy who was too weak, the boy who was too improbable. And she honors that boy. Not because he became great, because he was brave when he was small. You can perceive when there is love that is so complete that it includes all versions of a person, past and present, simultaneously. Steph understands that this is what it means to truly love someone, not to love in spite of origins. To love because of origins. Because you know where the person came from. Because you know the hardships the person overcame. Because you saw the courage the person had when it was easier to quit. Steph thinks about fatherhood now. About his children, Cannon, Riley, Ryan. Understands that the most important lesson he can pass on to his children is not how to win championships, is not how to break records, is not how to become famous. It is how to live with someone who sees you truly, who honors you not for what you have conquered, but for who you fundamentally are. Because this is true legacy, not a trophy that you inherit. It is the type of love that you witness between your parents. You can perceive when there is an understanding that will affect generations. Steph sees his children in the audience observing father and mother, observing the moment when Ayesha honored Steph in a Davidson jersey, and understands that his children are learning a lesson that the whole world needs to learn. A lesson that the greatest honor is not being famous. It is being seen, truly seen by someone who loves you. Steph thinks about Del Curry, his father. Thinks about how his father saw this moment. Thinks about his father embracing his son because he understood what was happening. Understands that this is continuity. This is generations passing along the understanding of what really matters. You can perceive when there is a transmission of values that is sacred. Because Del knew that the greatest success of his son Steph would not be championships. It would be being loved completely by Ayesha. And when he saw Ayesha in that old jersey, Del understood that his son had something that was more precious than any trophy. Steph also reflects on what true honor means. Honor is not external. It is not public. True honor is when someone who knows you deeply, someone who has seen your worst and your best, chooses to honor who you are. And that is what Ayesha did with that jersey. You can perceive when there is an understanding that is so clear that it is impossible to ignore. Steph Curry will be remembered as one of the greatest basketball players who ever lived. But Steph Curry will be known by his wife, by Ayesha, as the boy who was brave when he was small. And that is the honor that matters. Steph finally understands what Ayesha was saying with that gesture. That she loves him, completely, without reservation, without condition. That she loved him before the world knew his name, and continues to love him even now that the whole world does. That what she sees when she looks at him has not changed. She continues to see that Davidson boy who had an infinite heart in a finite body. You can perceive when there is love that is so honest that it hurts and heals simultaneously. Steph takes Ayesha's hand, squeezes it gently, whispers in a way that only she can hear. And you can perceive when there is communication between two who know each other completely. There is no need for many words. There is only understanding. There is only recognition. There is only two human beings who chose each other when there was no clear reason to choose, and continue to choose each other every day. The official ceremony ends. The plaque is revealed. Steph Curry Interchange at exit 30. But the true revelation, the truth that matters, has already happened. The truth that a man who returns home does not return as a legend to be honored by the world. Returns to be seen by the woman who loves him. A woman who wears an old jersey to say, "I honor the boy you were. I continue to honor. I will always honor." Because you know when a moment comes to communicate a deep understanding, when internal silence transforms into voice. The official ceremony ends. The crowd disperses. Applause echoes and disappears. But Steph and Ayesha remain on the empty stage. The arena that was full is now silent. And in the silence, there is space for truth. Steph turns to Ayesha. Ayesha still wears that old jersey. And there is a quality in her face that is peace. "How did you know?" asks Steph. And there is a simplicity in the question that is profound. Ayesha smiles the way she smiles only for Steph. "Know what?" responds Ayesha, as if the question were naive. "That this was what I needed to hear. Not that I was honored, but that you honor that boy I was." You can perceive when there is an understanding between two who love deeply. Ayesha sits in a stage chair, invites Steph to sit as well, and when they sit side by side on the empty stage of John M. Belk Arena, there is a quality that is intimate despite the public space. "Do you know what no one talks about you?" asks Ayesha. Steph waits. "That you have extraordinary talent, that you are one of the greatest, that you won championships, that you broke records. Everyone talks about this." Ayesha pauses, looks at Steph with eyes that carry 2 decades of knowledge. "What? No. One talks about is about the boy you were. That boy who was too small, who was too improbable, who no one believed in." You can perceive when there is love that is so honest that it hurts. "I believed," continues Ayesha, "because I saw something that the world did not see. I saw a boy with courage that surpassed his size. I saw a man who would overcome every obstacle because he had no other option." Steph listens, just listens, because he knows that this is a truth that needs to be communicated. "From the day we met," continues Ayesha, "I saw Steph, saw not the player, saw the man, saw the courage, saw the heart." Ayesha touches her chest. "And when the world dismissed you, I did not dismiss. When your own father doubted, I believed, because I saw you." You can perceive when there is truth being communicated that is so pure that it is impossible to contain. So, when Davidson invited me to speak today, when they asked me what I wanted to say to you, I knew exactly. I knew that I needed to honor that boy. Ayesha points to the jersey she still wears. "Because that boy is why I am here. That boy is why I chose you. That boy is why I continue to choose you every day." Steph understands in that moment what true marriage means. You can perceive when there is an understanding that changes everything. "I knew when we met," continues Ayesha, "that you were going to be great. Not because you would be a better player than anyone else. Because you had something that no one else had." "What?" asks Steph, in a low voice. "Refusal to quit. Refusal to accept what the world was saying. refusal to be the size your body was, refusal to be truly small. Ayesha holds Steph's hand. And that is the man I love, not the player. The man, the heart, the courage. You can perceive when there is love that is so complete that it includes all versions of a person. Steph cannot speak, cannot do anything but be present with the truth that is being communicated. So, when I see you today, honored by Davidson with a highway with your name, I do not see success, continues Ayesha. I see a return home. I see the boy who started here returning to the place where he started. I see the complete journey. Ayesha breathes deeply. And I wanted to honor that journey. I wanted to honor what began, not what ended. Steph understands what the true meaning of tribute is. It is not the public celebrating a celebrity. It is someone who knows him saying to the world, I see who you really are. I always have. I always will. That is why the jersey, says Ayesha, to say to the world and to say to you that the greatest honor you can receive is being with someone who sees you completely, who never doubted, who chooses you every day. You can perceive when there is a transmission of truth that is sacred. Steph places his head on Ayesha's shoulder. And there is a quality in the moment that transcends basketball, that transcends ceremony, that is just two human beings who chose each other. Do you know what I am thinking? Asks Steph after a long silence. What? Responds Ayesha. That our children are growing up seeing this. Cannon, Riley, Ryan are learning a lesson that the whole world needs to learn. You can perceive when there is an understanding of fatherhood that is profound. A lesson that the greatest success in life is not winning championships. It is not breaking records. It is not being famous. Steph sits up straight and looks at Ayesha. The greatest success in life is living with someone who sees you truly, who never stopped believing, who honors not what you conquered, but who you are. Ayesha smiles. Smiles because she knows that Steph truly understood. That is what I wanted you to know, says Ayesha. That you are honored not because you won championships. You are honored because you are loved by someone who knows your heart. You can perceive when there is communication between two who chose each other. And when our children grow up, continues Steph, when they have their own children, they will tell the story of the day when Ayesha honored Steph in a Davidson jersey. They will tell that the greatest prize their father received was not a highway. It was being seen and loved completely. Steph holds Ayesha's hand, and they will learn that this is what really matters. This is what is worth it. This is what lasts. You can perceive when there is a transmission of values that is profound. Because trophies break. Records are broken. Fame disappears. But love? Love that you demonstrated in that jersey today? That continues forever. That is transmitted through generations. That is true legacy. Ayesha squeezes Steph's hand. This is what you leave for the world, not championships. This, honest love, truth lived. You can perceive when there is a moment that is historic in its personal significance. Steph kisses Ayesha's forehead, and there is a quality in the gesture that is sacred. Thank you, whispers Steph. Thank you for… What? Asks Ayesha. For seeing me. For believing in me, for honoring the boy I was, for continuing to choose, for passing this on to our children. Steph breathes deeply, for being my true legacy. You can perceive when there is an understanding that is complete, because Steph finally understands that the greatest success of his life is not what he has conquered. It is that he has someone who loves him not in spite of who he was, but because of who he was. Ayesha stands up, removes the Davidson's jersey, holds it out to Steph. "This is for you to keep," says Ayesha, "as a reminder that that boy never left, that he continues here, and that he is honored." Steph holds the jersey, the old jersey, the jersey from when he was unknown, the jersey that Ayesha just honored in front of the world. "I will keep it forever," says Steph. "I will keep it to show to our children, to show to grandchildren, to show that true love sees everything." You can perceive when there is a moment that will echo through generations. The arena lights dim slowly. The stage gets darker and darker. But Steph and Ayesha remain there, remain together. And there is a quality in the silence that is perfect, because there is no need for more words. There is only understanding. There are only two beings who chose each other when there was no clear reason to choose, and continue to choose each other every day. Steph Curry returns home to Davidson, and returns different, because he understood that the greatest prize that life can give him is not a highway with his name. It is being loved by Ayesha, being seen by Ayesha, being honored by Ayesha, not because he became famous, but because he never stopped being brave. This is what it truly means to leave a legacy. It is not a trophy that you win. It is not a record that you break. It is a person you love who sees you truly and continues to choose you every day.